ಪುಸ್ತಕದಲ್ಲಿ. All his faculties, being thus animated, grew strong and restive, and his mind and thought began to cooperate with them. This resulted in the creation of world of thoughts. The balance was disturbed and conflicting tendency began to develop. So this is the state that we are in as of now. What he now describes is the state that we are in the disturbed state of mind. One faculty now induces him to have a walk in the open. Another stops him from doing so on the ground that it's of catching cold. The third one presents another view, and the fourth one still another. The fifth one begins to think of earning money, and the sixth one suggests the undertaking of some employment. The seventh dissuades him from undertaking extensive hard work for the purpose. The eighth one recommends the establishment of cordial attachment with some rich relative so as to capture his heart and offer him inducement to transfer his entire wealth to him. Another faculty comes forth to declare that all this is quite useless as long as he does not get married and have children to enjoy their wealth. He finally got married and has children too. Now the problem of their education comes in as they grow up. So it's a familiar story, no? Everyone passed through the same story. There is no difference. Everyone passes through the same story, and we all appear and we all think that we are all different. But the story that you pass through, the template that you pass through, is kind of the same for everyone. Now, he goes on further. What happens after that? Now, further, hearing of the nice acting of one Jamila, he was tempted to go to the theatre. He went there and witnessed the show several times, and the coquettish movements of Jamila captured his heart, and he was induced to attend the show again and again. Everything of Jamila began to attack his heart. This led to the commencement of love. Now he began to pine over the same thought, giving further strength to it by turning it into his habit. The network thus began to grow more intensified. The habit excited in him a tendency to look upon every similar thing as Jamila. Now he began to think of having money sufficient enough to satisfy his lusty desires, but the constant thought of Jamila offered him no time of earning money by lawful means. He at last began to think of stealing, but at the same time feared prosecution and imprisonment. But the thought of Jamila had caught him so tightly that he at last resorted to stealing, an unfair means. Now imagine what he originally was and what he is finally led to by the effect of his thoughts which had entrapped him so tightly. Similar incidents added further to the intricacies of the net, giving further greater strength to it by the effect of his thought, which tormented him all the more. The grossness went on increasing. Its resultant effects led to the development of further evils like passion, anger, lust, etc. In short, a complete conglomerate was formed. The retracing from it now, it retracing from it now can only be effected by the process of casting away all that he had taken in previously and by removing the perversion of thought by fixing it firmly in the right direction. So this Jamila story, you remember, fourth maxim is the story of the Jamila. Fourth maxim is the story of every human being. Okay. Now, since this diversion of thought is beyond the capacity of the common man, he should attach himself to some great personality who is himself firmly established in the highest plane beyond all possibilities of fall. Now, you tell me, when there is no possibility of fall, we read that in the earlier maxims.
In the central region after seven rings of splendor, like if someone is established there.
After seven rings of splendor, after the Kshobh, when you establish yourself in the latent motion and start imbibing the essence of the center, from there the fall is not possible. So that would be part of the answer after crossing the seven rings of splendor. What is there after seven rings of splendor? You cross the Kshobh and you enter into the latent motion. And that is the infinite ocean that Babaji talks about. There, what do? You actually start imbibing the essence of the center. From there, the fall is not possible. Till that level, fall is possible.
All of us.
Okay. So the downward tendency of the thought indicates that one has descended to a lower plane, assuming a grosser form. In such a case, it is quite essential for him to get himself attached to one of his fellow beings with faith and devotion so that his downward tendency may be mended by his influence. This will relieve him of all his distracting thoughts. So basically, why we have become more grosser? Because of the downward tendency of the thought. So you attach to somebody who has a upward tendency of the thought, who are more subtle. We also will become more subtle. So that's our job. He must also cultivate habits which will be conducive to his efforts for shattering the network. For instance, the ear should only attend only to noble talks. The eye should only see that which is pious and good. The heart should be inclined only towards that which is virtuous. There may be many such other things which will automatically come to his knowledge if he is after it. Besides this, he must also put in his own sincere efforts to shatter the net. At every stage, there are practices and meditation for this purpose, but a strong will and confidence are essential everywhere. So, in the reality at dawn, we spoke about WFC. What is the WFC that is required for our journey?
Will, faith,
Correct. Will, faith, and what is the C?
courage.
Just now you read.
Compassion.
Confidence.
Confidence. Just now you read, no?
Confidence.
Strong will and confidence are essential everywhere. That's the last sentence that we read. So, will, faith, and confidence, WFC. You didn't read that, huh? Gopal Krishna, you're looking and searching for that. You didn't.
No, no, I don't see confidence here. This will relieve.
What is there in the book? Just read the last sentence.
This will relieve him of all distracting thoughts.
Which paragraph? Just read the paragraph.
Now, since this diversion of thought. Okay, the next paragraph. Right, right, right. But strong will and confidence are essential everywhere.
You are presently with us, but you are in the past. Huh? So that's why I was asking, are you following what we are reading in the book or not? It's important to follow the thing in the book because that will also form the visual memory. So you are forming two memories simultaneously, the visual memory and the auditory memory. And if you actually make down some points, like Sudha sister does, you will also form that experiential memory of actually writing and then looking at what you are writing and then forming that memory. So there are three memories: the visual memory, the auditory memory, and the writing memory, which consists of the visual plus the movements of the hand. Okay. Sorry. This is like driving and looking at the earlier stage of the map that we have crossed and then trying to make the decision. Luckily, Google has given you that arrow and it shows where you are. Otherwise, whatever we did now, we'll be doing that on Google also. So we will take the earlier turn rather than the correct turn. So Bharat has now suddenly disappeared to go in search of the Google itself. Okay. At different chakras or plexus, there are various knots in this network, and still more are under formation. Underline that. So knot and chakra are not the same. I keep telling no. So that is here. At different chakras or plexus, there are various knots in the network, and still more are under formation. So we keep removing it and then we keep putting it. We keep removing, we keep putting. So it's a very dynamic thing. The knots. Okay. For shattering them, the help and the support of one who has shattered his own is really invaluable. The theory deserves careful study. These being mysteries so far are now revealed so that people may ponder over them and bring them into their practice. After dealing with the subject, my humble request to you, the reader, is that you should try to re-own the latent power, which is the very quintessence of nature, by breaking up the network interwoven by yourself. So catch hold of the latent power. Taking up for the ideal the simplicity of nature, which is before everyone's eyes, you should see to work. You should set to work for the attainment of God in such a way that all senses having merged in may become synonymous with that which remains after the fading away of the previous impressions. So all senses should go back to its original condition before it actually got entrapped in these networks. Then alone can you think of yourself as diverted towards Him in the true sense. So we cannot have the mind tending towards the God and the senses tending elsewhere. All of the faculty, all of our existence should be turned towards God. That is what he is now saying. Okay. The only method can be one that I have described above. One must go on reducing the activities, shaking off all superfluities that have entered into his being for the purpose of shattering his individual network and assuming the purest state one has finally to acquire. This is only possible when he associates himself with one who, having shattered his own network, has had enough swimming in the infinite. So, the latent motion is the place where you actually start swimming in the infinite ocean near the center. That is the latent motion that you enter after having crossed the shore. Okay, now that is the state of the thumb. What is there in the state of the thumb? So, it's the same thing. It is the latent motion, it is the infinite ocean, it's also the state of the thumb. What is there in the state of thumb? What is there is a condition of total unawareness. Okay, and finest of your identity. A fine identity with unawareness. That is what you actually end up with in the infinite ocean once you reach there. And in that condition, you actually start imbibing the condition of the center, or as imbibing the essence of the center. Okay, that is the last part of our journey. Our mind should be fixed on the last part of the journey from day one. Then we start going towards that particular journey. Yesterday, we were talking about three different examples. D, D, J. Remember, D means driving. Second D means doctor. And third J means jigsaw puzzle. Okay. Now you are taught driving. You are taught driving in the safest possible uh, situation. Many times people take you to the off street where there is no traffic. There you start driving. Then you learn driving in a field when nobody is there in the field. Okay. Now gradually you start coming to drive in a street where there are some vehicles, not much traffic, some vehicles. Then gradually you start driving in a more busier road. Then you continue to drive in the terrain of a particular place. After that, you gradually have to venture out to other terrains. So, in other words, when you take your vehicle out, what to expect in the street is not in your consideration at all. Sometimes we may say there will be more traffic at this time. That's all. But what kind of traffic, what kind of vehicles are driving, who is driving the vehicle, none of it is actually in your consideration when you take out your vehicle, right? All that you have in your mind is that this is the destination I want to reach, and you actually take out your vehicle with that view. And you are ready to navigate what comes your way when you are actually trying to reach the destination, right? Now, the terrain could be easy, difficult. It could be a mountainous terrain, it could be a watery terrain, it could be icy terrain, it could be a muddy terrain, it could be a terrain on a tarmac, it could be anything. It could be a cement terrain, cemented. The point is, once you learn driving, it could be a rainy terrain where it's kind of continuously raining. The point is, you have to learn how to drive in all these conditions. It could be foggy, it could be icy, it could be very slippery. Each one of it you have to learn to use. And again, put in the combination of the traffic in each of the terrain. Just see how diverse those things will become. But our job is to learn, once you have learned driving, our job is to drive across all these terrains in a confident way. Okay. Now, when driving in different terrains, we use different components of the car differently. In some, we are more careful of the brake. In some, we are more careful of the accelerator. In some, we are driving in a lower gear. In some, we are actually putting flashlights. In some, we have actually put on the headlights. Now, depending on the terrain and the conditions under which we are driving the car, we use different components of the car to make that journey. Does it make sense? Likewise, you are given different tools of practice. So the universal prayer, the point A meditation, point B cleaning, the morning meditation, the evening cleaning, the night prayer, the prayerful state, the meditative state, the constant remembrance, the entire spiritual anatomy, everything is a tool that is given to you for you to make this journey from wherever you are to where you have to reach. Now, you will not experience the same terrain all the time. In some places, as you are driving from one place to another place, there might be, the longer the distance, all kinds of terrains will get. In some places, it could be snowing. In some places, it could be raining. In some places, it could be very um, sunny. In some places, it has just rained and water is still there on the street, but it's now turned sunny. But still, you have to be careful. Now, you cannot drive thinking that now the sun is out. I am going to disregard what is there on the ground, the water which is there on the ground. I cannot just drive without taking all these factors into account. Right? So, the question is every one of us start at wherever we are, and then in the end, we have to reach the center, which is the infinite ocean. That's where we are trying to reach. The terrains that we actually pass through will be different for each one because the samskaras that we accumulate will be different. What we have brought us is different. So we should develop that awareness and sensitivity. Now, what will help you to use which part of the car while driving in a particular terrain? Your awareness about the car, your instrument that you have got. Your awareness about your five koshas, your awareness about your three bodies, your awareness about how your mind functions, your awareness about how to take care of your body, all these things actually help you navigate these different terrains, right? And then there are different tools. So, for example, if you're passing through a very stressful phase, then it is important that you need to minimize the meditation, try to actually work on the cleaning because that's actually impacting you. Get more sittings during the stressed state, so that if there are more samskaras which are getting accumulated, which are actually bringing you down, you can actually get it cleaned off. Then you probably need to do the prayer more intently to seek higher help to get rid of the current situation that you are finding it difficult to get rid of yourself. Can you see? At different stages of our journey, we should employ different aspects of the practices with more importance. It's not like a mechanical device that, irrespective of the condition of the street, I will just drive the way that I want to drive. No, it cannot be, no. So if you are driving in snow, it's going to be very slippery. So you need to take that into account. So this is one example I want you to remember, that each one of us have to develop awareness and sensitivity for what? For using different aspects or different tools of practice that is given to us to navigate through different terrains in different parts of our journey, in the spiritual journey, from the first point to the 13th point. We have to navigate in such a way that we develop different things, and then we have to look at the lifestyle. Lifestyle is about how we actually maintain the car and its servicing. If you maintain the car in a good condition, then it is going to be useful and helpful in certain situations. If your car is not maintained in the right way, then at some difficult part of your journey, it will give way, right? So that way, in general, before we start the long journey, we actually fill the tank, we check the air of the tires. At least we do that, no minimum things. Sometimes we might get the wheels realigned. We might actually go to leave it for servicing and ask him to check everything, the brake pedal, so many things, the clutch, everything. We'll ask the service person to check, and then only we start the journey. Check the oils. There's so many aspects of the car, no, that we have to take care of. You cannot just take a car out and then just go for a long ride. Within the city confines, you're okay. But once you're outside the city confines, if you're not, your vehicle is not in the good shape, then you never know when you will actually require additional help. It might just break down. Who knows, right? So that is the importance of keeping this perspective in mind, that in our life we will have to encounter in the spiritual journey different terrains that we have to pass through, and we should have awareness and sensitivity to use which instrument or which aspect of the practice for crossing that particular terrain. And we also should have patience. I cannot drive at 130, 140 on a slippery slope, while I can do that on a dry surface. On a slippery slope, I should probably slow down, right? They're all part and parcel of the journey. It doesn't mean to say that just because you've slowed down, that's actually not good for you. Nothing like that. Not only you have to reach the destination, you also have to reach the destination safely, right? If you are going to put yourself at the risk, that might not be the best way to actually reach the destination, right? It might get cut short. So this is one aspect I want you people to remember. Okay. Now the terrain that I'm talking about is the different phases of life, different challenges of life that we face in different stages. Okay. So that's one thing. That is the first D. Then the second D. So somebody who is actually uh, passionate about driving, they'll find this example very easy to relate to. They are anyway passionate, they are interested in driving, and they take on the challenge of driving all the time. Okay, so they'll say, okay, you give me any terrain. It's my job to take you across safely and make you reach the destination. Okay, this is the role of the master. The master has actually traveled in all terrains, can see what are the intricacies that are associated with different stages of the journey, and give you what is necessary at what stage of your journey. That is the job of the master. Okay. Then the second thing, but the driving we have to do. Master will not drive for you. You have to drive. Master is there to give you the input. Now you say that I'm not going to take out my car, I'm not going to drive. Then master also says, okay, okay, I'll also be with you at home only. So wherever you are, master will be with you. It doesn't matter. If you are driving, master will be with you in driving. If you're eating, master will be there with you in eating. If you're watching a cinema, master will be there with you in cinema. What you are doing, master will be there with you. It's like you are carrying your own soul in every activity. Okay. At one point of time, I had spoken just to some people. Why don't you remember the divine? Why do even you are in the toilet? What are you going to lose? They said, how can we remember the divine in the toilet? I said, Are, you don't keep your soul out and then go to the toilet. You carry your soul with you all the time. Whether you go to the toilet or otherwise, your soul is there with you. If you are going to keep it out, you are going to drop dead. There's no question of going to toilet then. Right? The point is, when we talk about constant remembrance, it doesn't matter what the body and the mind is doing. Constant memory is something beyond all these things. The body and the mind would be doing any activity. It doesn't matter. For the soul, there is nothing called as inauspicious activity. The soul is beyond auspicious and inauspiciousness. Okay, see how little we have a concept of the soul. We apply whatever we have learned as concepts at the level of the mind to the soul also. Right? So anyway, that is the first aspect, which is the driving aspect. Now the second aspect, the last session with the English candidates, it went on till about 10:30, 10:45, and many people started saying that these are all intellectual discussions. We should not get enamored by them. We should not get worried by them. So the example to relate to is, remember one thing, when we are studying through our degree, we study so many different subjects. We study so many different aspects. Like when we are studying medicine, we are studying so many different illnesses, a variety of illnesses. Not that when you come into practice, you will encounter all illnesses. No, nobody does that. Whatever you study, only a small part of that you actually employ in terms of your work, right? You don't, whatever you have read, you don't kind of take work from each and everything that you have studied. But if you have studied and if you know where to find them, in your work, if it becomes necessary in due course of time to tap into it, you will automatically go and tap into it. So it is important to have a broad perspective of all that is there so that we can know where to tap into when for our purpose, for our part of the journey. Right? So if somebody were to say, now why don't you just teach us meditation? Why don't you just teach us cleaning and go to the prayer? And you just give exams in these three and then we'll pass the exam. And then we will all become preceptors. Now, are you equipped to help an Abhyasi deal with their situations in life? If you yourself are not having that broad perspective regarding what to tap into when, right? If you yourself are not well versed with the journey, what are you going to actually help the Abhyasi with? The different stages of the journey, the different challenges and different stages of the journey. If you are not well versed with it, what are you going to actually support the Abhyasi with? Right? So it's important that although at times when we actually talk about some of these higher concepts, it might sound or appear theoretical. But remember, the mind absorbs some part of the essence of that and it will keep it. In due course of time, as and when we come to that stage, the mind will immediately recognize, oh, this is that stage that we had actually read, that we had actually spoken about, or that we had actually discussed. Immediately it will actually catch up, and then that experiential thing now adds to whatever you already have in the mind. That becomes more stronger in foundation. Then it becomes something that you are not going to miss. It's something part of your own experiential knowledge. That is what happens. Okay, that is the reason why we are reading the book, to equip ourselves with all the possible conditions that we might actually come across, to equip ourselves with all the skills that is necessary, so that we can pick the conditions and support the Abhyasi and support ourselves at different stages of our journey in the spiritual journey. Does it make sense? Otherwise, if you say, oh, this is theoretical knowledge, I'm not going to learn about it. This is theoretical knowledge, I'm not going to learn about it. You are not going to learn anything in the end. right? So if anybody who's done any degree, for that matter, just look at what all things you studied in the degree and what are which component or which part of that you are actually using in your work. It's a very small component that you will be using in the work. But the fact that you have studied all those things actually gives you an opportunity to tap what or when something is necessary for you. Does it make sense? So this is the second aspect. So the D. Now comes the third aspect, which is the jigsaw puzzle. Every one of us is here to solve the jigsaw puzzle of our life. Please underline this. Each one of us have to solve our own life's jigsaw puzzle by ourselves. Nobody else is going to solve the jigsaw puzzle of our life for us. Master is one who solved the jigsaw puzzle for himself. Once they have solved the jigsaw puzzles themselves, they know how and what are the intricacies that comes in the path. So they can guide you when you are stuck. Right? Master will not come and place every piece in the jigsaw puzzle for you. Forget about it. That's not going to happen. If you are playing the jigsaw puzzle, you have to put each of the pieces. But when you are stuck, then the master will actually come and give you some guidance. They might put the piece themselves, or they might say, look at this particular piece and give you some clues. Right? Now look at it. If I give the same jigsaw puzzle, 500 piece jigsaw puzzle, and I give to 100 people, don't you think all the 100 people will solve the jigsaw puzzle in a different way? The permutations and combinations are so much that each one will solve it in their own way, no? The pace at which they solve, the emotions with which they solve will be different. Each one. Can it be the same for two individuals? To any two individuals. Virtually, it's not possible. Right? But remember, when we actually reach the end of the jigsaw puzzle, we all feel very happy and satisfied and settled. Right? What you feel at the end of it is the same. In fact, what actually helps you to go through the process of solving the jigsaw puzzle is also the same. You need to have interest, right? You need to have interest in solving the jigsaw puzzle. You need to have excitement. You need to feel joy. Otherwise, after some time, you will give up, right? All the three are necessary. You need to have insight, the interest, you need to have joy, and you need to have the craving. Now, you cannot, if I give you the 500 piece jigsaw puzzle, can you solve the jigsaw puzzle without any template? You require a template, no? To look at the template and then solve it accordingly. You have a template, right? The template is the method given to solve the jigsaw puzzle. The thing that is expected out of you to solve the jigsaw puzzle, that is the mission. You remember Charity's three M's: master, mission, method. Now I'm giving you that. Master is one who's going to guide you to solve the jigsaw puzzle of life. That is master. He's given you a mission, which is for you to solve the jigsaw puzzle of your own life. That is your mission. While you try to solve that, you remember, you actually get to know that just trying to solve that one jigsaw puzzle is inadequate. I have to actually help others also to solve their jigsaw puzzle based on my experience. So then you become part of the wider mission. That's when the volunteering, everything will come in. Then the last thing is the method. You need to have a method to solve the jigsaw puzzle. You need to have a template. And the template is given to you. If I don't give you the template, if I don't give you the jigsaw pieces for you to solve, and if I don't give you the supervision or the support of the master, you will probably find it very hard to complete the jigsaw puzzle. So you require all the three: the master, mission, and the method. Okay. Now look at it in a slightly different way. Suppose I give the same jigsaw puzzle for the same person for the next 30 days. What happens then? Do you think that every day they are going to solve the jigsaw puzzle in the same way? No, no. Every day, probably, they will find a different way of solving the jigsaw puzzle. Right? They cannot solve it the same way because they would have forgotten it. Right? So the point is, it's important to remember that when this game of jigsaw puzzle of the life is played by us, we will try to solve it differently each time based on the template that we have got. Sometimes we might want to approach the jigsaw puzzle from the northern part, sometimes from the southern part, from the central part, or from the eastern part, or from the western part. Our approach will keep changing. But as long as we have what is the goal when you start the jigsaw puzzle? What is the goal?
Solving it.
To solve it, to complete it, to solve it. So when you have the goal, which is the reason, now if you don't have a goal, you probably might play the jigsaw puzzle for some period of time. After that, give it up. But when you are stuck with the goal that I have to solve this jigsaw puzzle, the energy is now flowing towards that situation automatically. Our thought is now flowing in the direction of completion of the jigsaw puzzle, and you are not going to rest till that is solved. That's the reason the moment we actually fix the goal and allow the thought power to flow towards the goal, we are accelerating the goal, the movement towards the goal. That is what we read in the third maxim. Fix the goal and stop not till you have achieved it. Without fixing the goal, our thought energy will be drifting in different directions. Once we fix the goal, the thought energy starts flowing in that particular direction and we can actually go through the journey. Okay, that's the important of keeping the goal in front of you all the time through the course of life. What is the goal now in front of you? The goal now is not going from this place to that place. The goal now is to solve the puzzle of life, the jigsaw puzzle of life. That is your goal. Whatever you do, whether you read, whether you talk to somebody, whether you discuss with somebody, whether you actually take sittings, whatever you do, take the help of the preceptor, take the help of the master. Everyone has a role to help you to solve the jigsaw puzzle of your life. That is all it is. Everyone has a role. And your job is to get that appropriate help to solve the puzzle of your own life. That is your job. You are the driver of your vehicle. Nobody else can be. You are the driver of your life. Nobody else can be. Okay? Now look at it. Take up one piece of jigsaw puzzle and look at it. It appears complete in itself, right? But you put that piece in the jigsaw puzzle, it appears incomplete, right? When you pick up the piece in your hand, it appears complete. But when you put it on the jigsaw puzzle, it appears incomplete. Now look at it. When does that particular piece of jigsaw puzzle attain completion? When does it attain completion?
And all of the pieces are put together.
Complete.
When all the pieces have fallen into place, then each piece attains completion. Does it make sense? So now the point is, if you are seeing other abhyasis, other human beings struggling, although we might go towards completion in our own realm, in our own individual self, Vivekananda says, until the last soul is liberated from here, I'm not going to go away from this realm. Can you see where he is coming from in the context of the jigsaw puzzle? Even if one piece is incomplete, the entire jigsaw puzzle is incomplete. Right? Likewise, with one piece, for the sake of completion of the jigsaw puzzle, every piece has to fall into place. Then you get a new perspective of completeness. This is what Daji talks about the egregore of a consciousness. The egregore. The more number of people actually come together, the more the sense of completeness that we have got. So if you leave out even one or two people, it actually creates problems. There is a persistent sense of incompletion at some level. Okay. So three things you have actually learned from this particular example. Each person trying to solve their jigsaw puzzle of their life is an individual journey. The beauty is that it's an individual journey to get over individuality. It's an individual journey. But what you do is that you actually get over individuality. That is what happens in the end. Secondly, you need to look at the jigsaw puzzle in the context of the master, mission, and the method. Thirdly, you need to look at the jigsaw puzzle in the context of the dynamic ways in which the puzzle can be solved. You cannot say this method is correct, that method is correct. Each one have their own method to solve it. And each one should be given the freedom to solve it in the way that they want, in the pace that they want, in the time that they want. Lastly, every piece of we all think that we are all complete, right? In one sense, we all think that we are all complete. I know the best. Do you know more about me than myself? We argue with everyone. We think that we are complete in ourselves. But when you put yourself as one pawn in the larger context of life, you see that you are incomplete. In the context of the universal creation, you appear to be too insignificant to actually say that I am complete. But every drop that is there in the ocean is necessary to be there in the ocean to give the sense of completion to the ocean. However insignificant one drop might be, the sense of completion will not be there in the ocean if even that one single drop is taken away. Okay, likewise, in this jigsaw piece, the puzzle that we play, if one jigsaw piece is missing, do you think that you have 499 pieces? And then in the end, you realize one piece is missing. How will you feel at the end of the game? Do you feel satisfied? Do you feel happy? Do you feel joy? Do you feel a sense of completion? Even if the one piece is missing, that final state will not come, right? So, in terms of our own sadhana, that is also the same thing. If we are missing even one small quality that is necessary for our journey, that final sense of completion will not come. Okay? Look at it in a slightly different way. If you have 500 pieces to actually put on the table in the jigsaw puzzle, the more the number of pieces that actually start falling into their place, the less complex that game appears to be. When you start, it appears the most complex. When each of these pieces, the pieces starts falling into its place, suppose 100 pieces are on the table now at the appropriate place. Now, to that extent, you feel the game has now become simpler. The more the number of pieces, the pieces that actually fall into place, the more the life becomes simpler. So you are moving from the complexity that you started with. As and when each and every piece falls into place, life becomes more and more simpler. Life becomes the simplest when you are in the last stage. Now, in the last stage, suppose there are three pieces to be fitted in. Don't you think it's very simple now? You finished 497, only three pieces to fit in, and you have a reasonable idea where to fit in what. Life has become very simple. This is the 12th point. Okay. Now, after that, you put all the three pieces in. Now, at that stage, are you still worried about the simplicity and the complexity of the jigsaw puzzle? What happens after you have put all the 500 pieces? What happens to simplicity or complexity idea? What happens to that? Where does it go? it simply becomes irrelevant. The idea of complexity and simplicity becomes irrelevant. You will not even think about it. It just goes out of your awareness. That idea vanishes. That's exactly what happens when you come to the 12th point. You have assimilated all the conditions and then they have merged into one, and you enter into the central region. The idea of simplicity or complexity is now gone. It becomes irrelevant in your life. You are just what you are in the central region. But at that level, you cannot journey yourself. You require masters to help you journey through the central region. So there are quite a few things that you can learn. Now, you have to approach this jigsaw puzzle of life with joy, excitement, right? You also need to have some degree of impatience. I just give you one example. When we were in UK, we brought some 200 or 500 pieces puzzle. In UK, that was sometimes our pastime to play the jigsaw puzzle. And it was a new puzzle. It was a Akhand Bharat map. Okay, the original map what India was like. And then we started on a Friday evening. Okay, because we had brought it newly, we thought we'll start playing. We never thought that it's going to take 2.5 days. We started with it on Friday evening and we would not even go to sleep. We were so enamored by solving that puzzle that every day we'll sleep late, and the first thing that we do when we wake up in the morning is to start solving the jigsaw puzzle. Forget about everything else. We started on Friday evening and we finished on Monday morning. You know the kind of happiness that we felt after having completed it, as we have achieved something great in our life. I'm just giving you this example based on our experience of solving that 500 piece jigsaw puzzle and the various things that you actually go through. You will sometimes feel frustrated, sometimes you'll feel angry, sometimes people distract you. Why don't you come and eat the breakfast? You are not in a mood to eat any breakfast. You want to solve the puzzle. You're fixated on that. Only when we are fixated like that in solving the goal of life, the solving the puzzle of life, we will reach the goal pretty fast. If you say that, okay, I'll put two pieces today and then two pieces tomorrow and then one piece the third day, when are you going to solve the 500 pieces? By the time you come to 250 days, you would have already lost interest. And there'll be times when you will probably not put any piece at all. So just keep this perspective in mind. The DDJ, the driving, the doctor, and the jigsaw puzzle. So you should all be excited to solve the jigsaw puzzle of life. That is what you are actually striving to do. Nothing else. Okay. Okay. I'll stop here. You remember DDLJ? What is DDLJ?
मोही
Bharat ಗೊತ್ತಿಲ್ವಾ?
मोही सर
Huh?
मोही हिंदी में
ಇದೇನು?
हिंदी मोही तेलुगु
Hindi movie. Oh, Bharat is well read, well informed. Hindi movie. What is the expansion?
दिल वाले दुल्हनिया ले जाएं।
Good. Bharat is in that stage of life. So no wonder he is actually in tune with it. Good. So you remember the DDLJ, remember the DDJ. Okay. We will catch up tomorrow. We have finished the fourth maxim. Then we'll continue from fifth maxim from tomorrow. Okay. So this story about the Jamila and before that is a story of every human being. It is no different. Okay. Have a nice day. Namaste. Then.
Sorry, brother. Thank you.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.